Hello guys, Dr. Paralysis here, and today we got the infos about the last characters from the Ave Mujica collab. So sorry if I don't pronounce these names well, I have no idea about the characters in this collab. I've literally never played Bang Dreams, I think the name is. I don't know anything. Anyway, we're not here to discuss about this, we're here to discuss about whether I think they are probably gonna be useful in IS or not. So let's start. The first unit is the 5-star Earthshaker Yutenji Nyamu. So yeah, I know she's playing the drum, but she's an Earthshaker. And she's a very particular one, as you'll see with her kit. So huge shout out to 30,000 light years on Reddit. So here's her talent. She can perform continued attacks, and when attack has a chance to inflict fragile lasting for seconds. So this is very funny, because this is pretty much like S3 Fear meta. This is a mechanic that is basically never used. You rarely see this mechanic used like at all. Whether I think this is good or not is probably irrelevant. Continue to attack no matter there are enemies in range or not. I don't really see the point of this. I can see a point in Fear meta because her attacks take a while to land, but for this character it's a bit weird. Like, it's probably not gonna be relevant if at all. Anyway, S1, when activated, attacks become special triple hits, among which the first hit has increased attack and splash range. The rest two have decreased attack. So more splash range, decreased attack. So it depends on the stats, right? Because if the one that has increased attack has like plus 200% attack and the one with decreased attack have like minus 10%, then it's irrelevant. It's still very good. But if it's like plus 100 and minus 50, then yeah, I guess having more attack in stats allows her to bypass defense, but other than that, it's kind of meh. S2, when activated, range expands, as we can see here. This is pretty much like every character in this collab, they all have pretty much increased attack range, which is actually pretty rare among 5 stars. Range expands, attacks become special octuple hits, so she hits 8 times, among which the first and 5th hits have increased attack and the rest has decreased attack. Target randomly in range. This is pretty weird, I would say, because like octuple hits, it depends on the exact damage overall. Random hit is very bad. You usually never want random hit. But the increased range is pretty interesting. You can hit enemies that are already passed behind her, so that's fine. You can defend like another lane if she's placed like here and enemies will come like for example there. This can be useful. The increased range is actually very interesting. It depends on the SP cost, it depends on the attack stat, obviously, but honestly we have seen way worse 5 stars in the past, I would say. Whether I think she's gonna be played or not, probably not, because well, she's still a 5-star guard. There's like much better options even among 5-star guards, I would say. So yeah, I've heard like in IS6, I'm not spoiling myself a lot, but I've heard in IS6 there are a lot of enemies that require to take a number of hits, much like in Link's event, in order to die. So maybe she can be used there, I'm not sure, but other than that, I really don't see her like being absolutely meta in IS, particularly since she's an Earthshaker also, so she doesn't have any hand available, she doesn't benefit from spinach like items, this kind of stuff, so yeah, kind of whatever, I would say. So this is the first 5-star specialist of the collab. There's 2 of them, and this is the ambusher specialist. So huge shout out to Cypher Vegas on Reddit. So her trait is deals damage to all targets within range, 50% chance to dodge physical and art, blah 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 blah. You know what ambushes are. Talent 1 is enemies damaged by this unit have a chance to be slowed for a few seconds. This is very weird because this is pretty much like Ethan, but with slow instead of root, which is in most cases much worse because a lot of enemies actually resist slow and not a lot of enemies resist root, and those that resist root also resist slow anyway. This is like Ethan but worse. When a skill is active, attack range expands. So this is very good. Extending the range by not having it attached to a skill is very good in general. The increased range is this. So unfortunately it's not that much of a range expand. Like you can see it's like one horizontal tile here and there and one here. So it's kind of, yeah, like it's kind of weird. It's not that good, but I guess it's better than nothing. Skill 1 immediately launches 5 consecutive strikes, each dealing a certain percentage of attack as arts damage to ground enemies within attack range. This is very good. This is unironically very good. 5 hits that deal arts damage. It depends on the stats, obviously, again, but honestly 5 hits of arts damage that all have a chance to slow the enemies, this is actually pretty decent, I would say. Particularly with what the rest of the skill reads. Whenever another Ave Mujica member activates their skill, this skill will be activated 1 additional time. What? Whenever a member of the collab activates their skill, she will be activating her skill 1 more time. Okay, so we don't know the exact SP cost of all the members, but this is insanely good. Like having 1 more activation for free. An activation for free that also triggers like spinach-like items and this kind of stuff and can slow. Having a free activation and there's 5 characters in the collab. I don't know, it feels very good to me. Skill 2 inflicts fear on enemies within attack range for a few seconds, deals a certain percentage of attack as arts damage to all enemies within attack range every second, increases talent's 1 chance to slow enemies. I really don't like this skill for a simple reason. If enemies are feared, you don't want them to be slowed as well. This is very anti-synergistical. If enemies are feared, in a lot of cases they will run in the opposite direction, so you actually want to increase their attack speed, you don't want to slow them. Yeah, like this is very weird. I don't want that at all. Like honestly, the skill 1 seems infinitely better than this, particularly with the free activations. I'm not sure about this S2, but honestly the S1, I can see this being useful, honestly, even for a 5-star, and that's pretty hard to justify in IS, but still, this one seems very good. It seems pretty much to be Ethan with a more reliable skill, and that can be activated multiple times under the right conditions. So I don't know, guys, it seems pretty good to me. The main issue is that you need to have all other characters in the team, so a lot of characters don't seem particularly useful, so I don't know, maybe with the 6-star it's enough to justify picking her, but this seems pretty good already. Alright, on to the second specialist of the collab. So this is a Doll Keeper, Wakaba Mutsumi. So a trait is does not retreat upon receiving lethal damage, instead swaps to substitute, blah blah blah. You know what a Doll Keeper is, right? Talent 1, a certain percentage of the physical and arts damage taken by this unit in substitute is converted to half necrosis damage. So this is the weirdest part of a kit, because you would think that maybe taking necrosis damage is beneficial to her, but there's actually no benefit at all to taking necrosis damage. It's just a way to quote-unquote mitigate the damage, and instead she takes necrosis damage? She could have simply not taken anything. This is weird, but anyway. So the substitute does not attack, has increased defense, and whenever an Ave Mujica member attacks, there's a chance to reduce the duration of substitute by 1 second. This is pretty weird. This is not at all usually what a Doll Keeper wants, because she becomes pretty much like a tank. You don't recruit a Doll Keeper because you want a tank. This is weird. You don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. Anyway, skill 1, defense increases, block increases, becomes more likely to be targeted. If this unit is knocked out during the skill, substitute can also block enemies and receive the buffs provided by the skill. Lasts until the substitute leaves the battlefield. So this is insanely weird. This is like a tanky Doll Keeper. So we've seen with Verdant pretty much what a tanky Doll Keeper is, and the answer is it's shit. It's absolutely bad. You don't want that. This is not what a Doll Keeper wants. All Doll Keepers in Arknights that are good are actually offensive Doll Keeper, and there's a reason for that. If you want a tanky specialist, you will not pick a Doll Keeper. You will pick, for example, someone with utility like Ethan. You will not pick a Doll Keeper. There's no point in doing this. I guess if you really want someone to defend, but even then, this is pretty hard to justify. Skill 2, attack range expands, attack interval slightly decreases, attacks become 3 consecutive strikes that deal a certain percentage of attack as arts damage, interesting. Randomly attacks targets within attack range, less interesting. This unit takes a certain amount of arts damage each time this unit attacks hits an enemy. The S2 is actually pretty good in my opinion. The range is actually pretty good. It deals arts damage, it deals triple strikes. The main issue is that we don't know how much damage she takes while attacking. But overall, this is a decent skill. Deals triple hit that are each arts damage. In terms of damage, this is probably comparable to Kazemaru, except Kazemaru only sacrifices 50% of her health, while this one probably, I would say, kill herself. So I'm not sure. Is she gonna be better than Kazemaru? It's pretty hard to say, right? I guess if you're going for the Ave Mujica pack, you can pick this one instead of a Kazemaru. I mean, in any case, if it's like a Kazemaru that takes more hits to herself, but quote-unquote boosts the other Ave Mujica members, I guess it can be used. Kazemaru has always been very good in IS, so I can't say this one is gonna be bad. We would have to try and see what the self-damage are, because like, if it's 10% per attack, then yeah, we're not sure. If it's like 1%, like who cares? Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like, we need to know about the exact damage she takes, but honestly, it seems like to be like a nice alternative to Kazemaru. I can't say this is bad, for sure. Alright, so this is the new supporter bard, Misumi Uika. So shout out to Cypher Vegas. and to another modzy for the translation. So trait is does not attack but continuously restores the HP of all allies within range. Talent 1, when there is no active skill, heals an ally unit with the lowest HP within attack range every few seconds equal to a certain percentage of attack. When a skill is active, prioritizes Togawa Sakiko as the healing target. So Togawa Sakiko is the 6-star lord, so we'll check her kit later. Skill 1 is attack range expands. All other ally units within an attack range gain inspiration equal to a certain percentage of this unit's attack and defense, and whenever a target takes damage, restores a certain amount of HP for them. This is oddly enough very basic skill, I would say. It's a nice skill, I'm not gonna lie, but it pretty much makes her a hero that also slightly boosts their attack and defense. Again, it depends on how much HP they get back. Also, it says whenever a target takes damage, so I wonder if this works with the Dollkeeper, since the Dollkeeper takes damage every time they attack. If this works, then it could be a nice combination. Skill 2, trait no longer restores HP, periodically deals a certain percentage of attack as arts damage to an enemy within attack range, and heals an ally within attack range equal to a certain percentage of attack. All other ally units within attack range gain inspiration equal to a certain percentage of this unit's attack. This is honestly very good. That means she becomes pretty much like a single target medic that also can deal damage and increase the attack of allies thanks to the inspiration. Honestly, this is pretty much everything a bard wants, right? Healing, increasing attack, and also deal damage. Pretty much like Skadialter, but it's a mix of S2 and S3 Skadialter on a 5-star. This is very interesting. Honestly, it seems pretty good to me. Again, it will depend on the SP cost, but usually besides Sora, because she's like a year 0 operator, pretty much all bard have very low SP cost, I would say. It could be very useful. Dealing arts damage, healing an ally, increasing their attack, like there's nothing wrong about this. And finally, the new 6-star Lord God, Togawa Sakiko. So this unit has a pretty loaded kit, so bear with me. Talent 1, this unit can carry out continuous attacks. Each attack generates a music note that tracks down a nearby enemy. Music notes will disappear after leaving this unit's attack range for a certain amount of time. For each music note on the field, the attacks of Ave Mujica members ignore a certain percentage of defense and resistance and has a limit. When a skill is active, range attacks no longer deal reduced damage. The Talent 1 has two interesting things. One, it makes her pretty much a support for the whole package, and two, no longer suffering from the trait of Lord Guard is very good, because usually a lot of Lord Guard lose this trait under a specific skill, for example S3 Xiaobai, but not with every skill, so this is very good already. Also, the ignore defense is a percentage, it's not a flat defense ignore, so in a lot of cases this could be very good. We've already seen that a lot of characters deal arts damage, so they will ignore resistance, and those that deal physical damage will actually ignore a percentage of physical damage. It seems like she pretty much blends the whole package together by herself. Alright, Talent 2 is increases favor when dealing damage to enemies. If the attack range of other Ave Mujica members are overlapped with this unit's attack range, they are regarded as the extension of this unit's attack range. What the fuck? Operators within this unit's attack range have increased ASPD. What? So if you have another character that has increased range within this unit's attack range, then that also becomes a new range. This is so weird and so powerful. Remember, this is only a talent, this is not even a skill. Also, it says operators within this unit's attack range have increased ASPD, so not only Ave Mujica members, she passively boosts the ASPD of everybody in her range. This is incredible. This is incredible for so many things. You can, for example, put her like near a high ground tile and you can boost like a range unit's attack speed. This is so good. Alright, Fever. When Fever is full, manually activating an Ave Mujica member skill will cause all other Ave Mujica members on the field to enter skill activated state for a certain amount of time. Wait. To enter skill activated state? What does that even mean? Skill activated? What the hell does that? I don't even know what this means. So does that mean that it pretty much activates the skill but for free? I don't understand. I'm not sure if this means this will, for example, simply increase their range, but or it will also consider them to be activating their skill, but for free. This is so interesting. If it means the second part, like basically activating a mini part of their skill for free, but just for a couple seconds, this is absolutely broken. Skill 1 immediately creates a certain amount of music nodes. Each node deals progressively less arts damage, can store charges, automatically activates once when the skill reaches maximum charges. So it looks like this. During Fever, the music will temporarily change. I think this is only miscellaneous, like it doesn't change much except the music you can hear. Skill 2, Activation Effect, can switch between playing the piano and the organ. Piano by default, attack increases, the flying speed of music note increases, music notes deal physical AoE damage, and will not immediately disappear after hitting an enemy. Organ, attack speed increases, music note deals arts damage but have a decreasing flying speed. During Fever, attacks become 2 consecutive strikes of the current instrument. So this is what it looks like. So this is the piano. And this is the organ, I assume. So this is a switch skill. So this is interesting because a lot of the kits of these operators depend on whether you activate the skill or not. A stand skill can be activated usually pretty fast. Look at Mountains S2 for example. If the SP cost is very low, which it should be, again it's a stand skill, it should be, then this is very good, honestly. And in the worst case, you have an operator that can deal physical damage or arts damage on demand and only at E1. Again, this is the skill 2. This is already pretty good. And finally, skill 3, attack range expands. Each attack creates 2 music notes that deal physical and arts damage respectively. The music notes track down enemies with the highest resistance and defense respectively. During Fever, Ave Mujica members will survive upon taking lethal damage, retreats from the field when Fever ends. Okay, so this is the range, which is a very good range, although a very weird one. So she will retreat after the Fever ends, and in the meantime, all operators are invincible. So she's pretty much like a 5 operators Surtur by herself. Alright, what do I think about all of this? The only thing we're lacking are the numbers. Everything comes down to the numbers. But from what I can see, this is absolutely insane. So the 6-star allows the whole team to trigger their skill automatically thanks to the Fever mechanic. She can deal physical or arts damage on demand and will even target the enemies that have the least resistance to deal arts damage to them or vice versa. She can have an extremely high range thanks to the other character having increased range as well. So now besides the stats, the only issue is the whole package enough to play NIS? From what I can see, it seems to be an extremely powerful package. Like the package basically has everything: physical damage, arts damage, some slow thanks to the ambusher. It doesn't have a lot of entire damage, unfortunately. There's no sniper, there's no caster. There's like one supporter that can deal some damage, but it's probably not a lot. And there's the Lord Guard. So is the Lord Guard enough to deal damage? Well, usually I would say no, but in this case, have you seen this range again? This is extremely high, and she can even increase the like, you can basically target aerial units by simply placing Togawa Sakiko on the field and then extending her range by putting, for example, an ambusher in the aerial unit's range, and therefore she'll be able to attack the drones. This is really cool. Let's be honest, this is extremely cool. The main issue is that you need to get all of these units. You need to get all of them. Like, the only one that doesn't seem that interesting to me is probably the Earthshaker, I would say. This is probably the least interesting of them all, but all of them are pretty good. Like, the Bard is a supporter that can heal them, increase their attack. The Ambusher acts as a nice slower and a nice range extender for the Lord Guard. The Dollkeeper can act as both a defender and an arts damage dealer and a huge range increase as well, and the Lord Guard basically ties the whole package together. So only the Earthshaker is kind of whatever, I would say, but gacha speaking, that means if you're pulling this banner, you probably want all of them, honestly, particularly since the Earthshaker is the free one. Also, one of the main issues I see in IS specifically is that you actually can't recruit a lot of them at the same time. We have 2 specialists, 2 guards, and 1 supporter. So best case scenario is going for the Guard and Vanguard team, pick Overcoming Your Weakness, and pick a Guard, so Togawa Sakiko, the supporter, the Bard, and whatever medic, it doesn't matter. So you would only get 2 of them, and then if it's an IS-5, you would increase the chance of getting Guard, which is a good thing because you would have an increased chance of getting the Earthshaker, but also have increased chance to get Vanguards, and you actually don't want that. You will want supporters. So the choice of classes is pretty weird, right? If I want supporter, usually I would want caster, and if I want guards, I would also want Vanguards. The fact that 40% of them are specialists and 40% of them are guards is pretty weird. but overcoming your weakness already gives you 2 in the best cases, and I would say these are pretty much the 2 most important because the supporter is both the buffer, the healer quote unquote, and is also the only high ground tile. So that means you can put her anywhere in this girl's range in order to increase our range. So I would say this start would be pretty useful, and then you try to get the other pieces of the puzzle whenever you can. So whether I think this is gonna be useful or not, I am not sure. Again, it really depends on the stat. It all comes down to the stat, but from what I can see, I don't think there's a single thing that is bad about this. Of course, if you're going for one specific thing, like obviously if you're going for IS5 ending 5 or ending 4, like this kind of very difficult stuff, it might be very difficult because usually you would want some very, very specific operators, and I don't think they fill a role of a very specific operator. I would say they are a good general purpose operator. They are the most general purpose operators when they are together because they deal a lot of damage, they heal a decent amount, they deal physical and arts damage, they have a lot of range. It's not something specific, but it's very good in the general sense of the way. And sometimes you just want that. You just want some general good units. It's pretty funny too because their kits are so convoluted, and yet they don't do anything that is particularly bizarre. Like it's only like dealing damage, having range increase, this kind of stuff. So I would say this is very newbie friendly. If you're a new player and you're watching this video and we are 6 months in the future somehow, I would say pull for this banner, honestly. Try to get the 6 stars, probably be guaranteed after 120 pulls, and try to get all the other 5 stars as well. Because I feel like when they are together, they are gonna be extremely useful for a new player. Again, you have like 3 lane holders in the specialist, in the doorkeeper, and the 2 guards. You have some anti-air damage, you have physical and arts damage, you have a lot of range, you have some healing as well, so it's extremely good for a new player. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that for advanced strategies it's probably not gonna be that useful. It's not on the same level as Tragedia, for example. We're not talking about something on the same level of Tragedia, but it's certainly gonna be a very fun experience, particularly in the very early game. So anyway guys, this was my analysis for all the new 5 units that are gonna release in CN for the collab. This seems to be extremely fun, and I actually can't wait to pull them, because I wasn't interested in the beginning because I have no idea what this IP is, right? But seeing their kit, it really makes me want to play them. So tell me what you think of this analysis, leave a like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.